So I spent the last weekend reading Phantasma by Kaylie Smith, and in today's video I'm going to give you my full review, and I'm going to do it in two parts. One is going to be the review of what the book is. Is it well written? Does it have a good plot? Does it have a good story? What I thought about the challenges in this books, etc. And then we're going to have a second part, which is going to be my personal review, where I tell you what I personally enjoyed and didn't enjoy of this video. So if you love romantasy, you will get a review of what the book is for what it is, and then you also get my opinions if you don't read romantasy and you're wondering, after 500 pages, somebody that doesn't read romantasy, did you love it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Well, that's all where I'm going to cover today in this video. Hi, Carrot. You came to say hi. Are you trying to sneak up on me? Are you trying to be a sneaky kitten? Come here, kitten. No. Come say hi. Come say hi. Mi nombre es Carrot. Carrot. You're such a cute kitty. Now, this is a book of 500 pages, or 492 actually. I keep saying that it's 500, but it's 492. And it starts with a note from the author that says that this book covers OCD, and to check your triggers, she sends you to her website to make sure that you read everything that you need to know before you start this book and maybe trigger something. And at the end of this book, there's also an author's note that explains how her own OCD inspired these characters. Now, this is a story of two sisters, Ophelia and Genevieve, and they live in New Orleans. And it kind of opens with a scene where their mom is dying. She has this one necklace with a heart, and it's referencing how her heart is stopping as the necklace is doing something. From the beginning, we learn that the mom passes away. The girls are by themselves, and they have this service for the mom where they are by themselves. Soon after they are done with the memorial, they get this visit from the bank, and they find out that they have a debt and that they're going to take the house from them. Now, there's a little bit of a problem between the younger sister and the older sister, where the younger sister, Genevieve, tells Ophelia, the older sister, that they better just go. Like, forget about this. She doesn't want to keep going with the family thing. They are necromancers, and the mom passed her abilities to Ophelia. But Genevieve is saying, you don't have to do it. You're just pushing yourself to do it. You're not happy. You shouldn't have to do it. So they have this big fight, and you kind of learn that Ophelia was the daughter that was always helping the mom and believing everything that the mom was saying and teaching her on how to be a necromancer, stay away from this and close to this other thing. And the younger daughter, Genevieve, was very wild, was very social. She had lots of friends, and she had a very normal life. Eventually, they have this big fight, and Genevieve disappears. Ophelia goes through her stuff in her bedroom, and she finds her diary and finds a little bit of, I think it's a clipping from a newspaper that announces that a competition called Phantasma was getting to town. I think it was the next day, and it's a supernatural competition where you can participate and you get this one big prize at the end. If you win, you can forfeit, but the challenges are brutal. Like, people die throughout this competition. So that's when Ophelia thinks, you know what, my sister is there, so I'm gonna go there. She ends up going there, but she can't just go looking for her sister. She needs to sign up for this competition, and that's how it starts. Now, there are devils, there are ghouls, there are necromancers, there are demons. They're all kinds of supernatural beings. And I have to say that that was the part that got me really interested in this book. I thought that the competition, being supernatural and with a lot of challenges, was going to be something that I was going to really enjoy. Now to my review. So overall, if you like romantasy, I think this is a well-written book. It has a good plot. It has a very interesting challenges, and I think you're gonna enjoy. I have thoughts. I have a rating as far as what the book is. I believe that this is a 4-star book because it kept me interested. It had a little bit of mystery. I really did want to see what was going to happen with the two people that Ophelia went into this competition to find. I wanted to know the origins of Phantasma, how it all started, and why this competition was taking place. And I also was very entertained at the time that they were having the different trials, and I thought that it was done really nicely. And I have to say that I consider a book smart when they're able to give us all that story and everything has a purpose. And I find that with a lot of new books or new authors or new horror or new thriller, most people or most authors or of some of the recent books that I've read, they actually put a lot of fluff in the book, and unless you're interested in all those tangents that they go in before they actually get to the resolution of what happened, or the plot itself, it just loses me. And I think that this, yes, it was almost 500 pages, but every single page had something to do with what was coming next, and also taking you all the way back. I think it's 500 years, so it's really good. I think that she had a good idea of what she wanted to do with this book, where she wanted to take it, and it worked. In this case, it worked. So if you want to know, is this a good book? Yes, I think it's a good book. But let me tell you a little bit about what I liked and didn't like about this book. Now, I'm not going to give you an overview of what happened in the last 100 pages. I'm only going to say that it took me hours and hours and hours, and I would say like almost an entire day of avoiding this book. And I'm saying avoiding the audiobook and avoiding the book itself. Even though I did want to know what happened in the end, I wanted to read something else. Like, I really was going back to my Goodreads every time I had time to read. I wanted to go and sit on my phone and look on my Goodreads, what's the next thing that I want to read. And there are quite a few new books that are coming out, and I'm really interested in them. So all I wanted to do was read something else, something that would help my brain. And having ADHD, there are certain things that trigger my curiosity in a book, and that's the only way that I can finish this book. So I finished a book. This one, I really had to push myself to read the last 100 pages. The first almost 400 pages, I was okay, but I was reading it. It wasn't my most enjoyed book, but I could see how it was well written. The story was all coming together. There were not plot holes. The games or the challenges were really entertaining, but I had to oversee and I had to skip ahead on all the smut and all the graphic details about what he was doing, how he was doing it, and what she was doing, how she was doing it, what she was feeling, what she was touching, like all those things really I don't care for. So again, the book itself, as I said, is really good, but those are the parts that I just could not read the words, and I just had to skip ahead. The other thing that I don't think it works for me, or at least this romantasy didn't work for me, is because in my head, for what I like and what I read, I need a monster that scares me. Like, I need a monster that is really mean, is trying to murder me, is chasing me, is doing something to scare me. And in this case, in this book, even though there were all kinds of different supernatural beings, they were all more interested in sleeping with you than doing anything else. Yeah, I'm gonna torture you, but first let's have sex. I'm like, what? Excuse me? What are you saying? it was just like very, it was a different story. Like, I don't enjoy reading about monsters that end up being a nice guy. Let's say Twilight, for example. Yeah, it was a romance between a human and a vampire. And even though I thought overall was good, I just found that it was very cringy. Like, you scare me. I enjoy the parts of the movie where they're the what is it, the guys from Rome, the Volturi would come, and they would fight and that kind of thing. That's what I enjoy in monsters, and I couldn't find a monster that I was afraid of in this book. Another thing that I thought it was very similar to Twilight was the fact that at certain point she needs to make a decision of what she's going to do with the rest of her life, which could be eternal or it could be mortal. And there's like a 15-minute conversation where he's completely like asking, are you sure this is what you want to be? You don't know what it being immortal is. You don't know what is this. And I'm like, I was hearing Edward in my head, and I was thinking, why do I have to relive Edward's monologue that was like, but you don't know what it is, and you don't know this, and you don't know. And I'm not saying that she had to turn into anything. It was just at some point in this book she had a choice, and he spent 15 minutes trying to convince her that it's better to be mortal when we love each other and we want to be together for the rest of our lives. And him being a supernatural being and she being a human, Twilight all over again. Another thing that I didn't enjoy is that I am sorry, but this girl was just horny the entire time. She wanted to find a guy. Like I said, what I said in my previous update, I mentioned that she had this encounter with this guy where he said, tell me what's your fantasy. She's like, oh, I want to go dance in this ball with this gown and with this. When she's in the middle of learning of what really is the history of her family and the history of Phantasma, and then she decides to stop all that and go into this ball and dance with this guy. And then eventually there's more than dancing. And then so I'm like, and she's considering it because she likes her love interest, but at the same time she's like, well, but I'm horny. And I'm like, kind of takes away from the love story, if you ask me. Another thing that I thought it was kind of cringy, but at the same time, I don't know if it's a thing and I'm just not getting it, and maybe somebody else with more awareness reads this book and is like, oh my gosh, how amazing the portrayal of consent. Like every time this beings, because I don't want to tell you which ones were which, but these beings were going to do something to her, they were always asking for permission. They were like, okay, we will do this, but whenever you want me to stop, I'll stop. And I have to say that at least 30% of the book is this conversation of one of the supernatural beings saying that she can say no at any time and they will stop whatever it is that they're doing. I'm not saying specifically what it is, but whatever it is that they're doing, they won't do it without her consent. So, are you a monster? Are you evil? Are you nice? I don't know. I really don't know. And finally, the portrayal of OCD. Now, I don't want to speak out of my butt, really, in this situation because I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I thought that it was kind of confusing the way that she used OCD in this book. Like, there's a note in the end where she explains that everything or most of the conversations that she will have with this voice in her head is based on her own experiences or somebody she knows. And so I find that it's really important to share your experiences, and that's why I don't want to speak out of my butt. But from somebody from my perspective who it really don't know what having full-on OCD looks like, when this started, I have to say that if it wasn't saying in the beginning, the first page of the book, it wasn't saying, the portrayal of OCD, blah, 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 like a disclaimer, I wouldn't have known. I would have thought that the voice that she was hearing was the voice of a supernatural being, and that's for you to find out. A supernatural being that was living in her head, or it was living near her and was able to communicate with her. I feel like she did touch on OCD, and she incorporated that into Ophelia's character, but I think it takes a lot of awareness of what that looks like in order to understand that this was not part of the supernatural world that they were living in. And I can see how some people can say maybe she doesn't have OCD, but she is possessed or something. Like, I feel like the way that it was portrayed and touched on without explaining, that she was diagnosed with. And again, it doesn't even talk about OCD in the book itself. It kind of gives you that first note in the beginning, and it hopes that you can understand that that voice in her head is her OCD telling her to knock 3 times, to do this, to do that. And yes, I think most people will know that's how some people with OCD will behave or would behave, but I really didn't think that it was clear enough for people to, or for the message to touch people out there that were reading this book. So I think it was a good way for the author to throw all her feelings and her experiences into a character that ended up using this voice to do something. But in the end, I don't think that it touched really in what OCD is. And if it wasn't for the note at the beginning and at the end of this book, I don't know if the presentation that we get in this book is explained enough for somebody that doesn't know what it is to understand that that's what it is. And it could be misrepresented, or it could be misinterpreted, I should say, by the reader. So that is my other 2 cents on that. Again, I'm not saying that it's done wrong. I'm just saying that it could be confusing depending on your knowledge on OCD and the author itself. So my personal rating, it's gonna be 3-star. A 3-star is a good book in my opinion. It's just not for me, and that's why I have 2 different reviews, one for what the book is and another one for how I enjoyed it. So I don't think I can give it more than 3 stars. I did enjoy, I'm gonna say I enjoyed a good 70% of the book. Now if you ask me today, would you read another romantasy book, I'd say I would try it. Probably not as young as YA, but maybe in the future another adult romantasy. I don't think I'm gonna do it anytime soon. I've noticed that because I am not into it as much, I read less. Like, I can read a book in a day. Like, I can sit and read 300 pages, 340 pages in a day. I can do audiobook, and I can sit down and read on my days off. And for me, it's not a big deal. By the time I'm done with the book, I'm like at the epilogue and I'm like, oh wait, did it just end? It's one of those things that for me, reading is an enjoyable experience. And when I am reading something that I don't really enjoy 100%, it takes away from my experience and it makes my hobby being boring. So I'm glad I gave it a go. I'm glad I was able to read it because I learned a lot, and I think I did it with the right book, because I do think that this is a really good book. And this one, it's gonna go to the library. I'm gonna donate it to the library because we don't have it. But I do think that if I donate this to the library and we have that audience that really enjoy romantasy and that is so well written, it's such a good story, such a good plot, that I'm sure somebody will enjoy it. Thank you for joining me today. I had a lot of fun reading outside. It's been really quiet. It's been really nice. Today it's kind of overcast and it's been sprinkling a little bit, so we have to get ready for the rain tomorrow. But I am doing my research on my next book because I really need something fast-paced, something entertaining, a mystery that I can't put down, and I need to read a book a day, like a book in a day, in order to get that feeling of, yes, I do love reading. kind of something I miss when I read something that I don't enjoy. But I'm proud of myself for doing this, for taking the weekend to read this book, and I hope that this helped you in some way to decide if this is something that you want to read. And again, if you do enjoy a lot of smut, and if you do enjoy a lot of I don't know, conversations, romance, and things that I call cringy, I'm not calling you cringy. You're welcome to love all that. I just don't enjoy it. And I feel happy that a lot of people will enjoy this once I donate this to a library tomorrow. But I'm okay. We just read different things and we should be all okay with that. So if you're new here, please remember to subscribe, like this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye, guys.